Hello everyone. Today we're gonna talk about Isaiah 23. Isaiah 23, I'm gonna divide it into two videos. One talking about the judgment, and the second talking about, guess what? The restoration. Okay, so this chapter is divided into two parts. 1 through 14 is about Tyre's fall, or a song that talks about Tyre's fall. Second, that 15 through 18, quite shorter, but it is about Tyre's revival and allegiance to the Lord and his people. All right, first, let's look at the first section. So this video is going to be on the first part, the fall of Tyre, and it's divided into 4 sections into chiastic structure. First is lament of the ship of Tarshish, and it ends A prime lament of the ships of Tarshish as well. In the middle, we have the downfall of Tyre and Sidon, and also the agencies, meaning how they're gonna fall, by whom they're gonna fall. So keep this in mind as we dive into the first half of chapter 23. The oracle concerning Tyre. Wail, O ships of Tarshish, for Tyre is laid waste without house of harbor. From the land of Cyprus it is revealed to them. Pause here. So, oracle concerning Tyre, ships of Tarshish. Where is Tarshish? Tarshish is in Spain. It's near the Gibraltar Strait. Gibraltar is the very narrow strip of body of water that separates the Africa continent from Europe on the western part of it. So, this is like the end of the world in that day. They didn't know about the Americas. So Tarshish is like a trading post established by the Phoenicians or the Tyrians and the Sidonians. Okay, so Tyrians and Sidonians were the trade masters. They were the rich ones back then. So if you remember, this is the last oracle of the nations. This is the 10th one. Okay. It began with Babylon in chapter 13. We're ending with Tyre in chapter 23. And Babylon was like the military power. They were the superpower in terms of the politics, international relations. Tyre and Sidon were not as powerful militarily, but they were the best known, the representative of rich commerce and rich economics. And they achieved it by trading. And they established all sorts of colonies all over the Mediterranean basin, making these cities and setting them as trading posts so they can make money from this trade. They were so rich and they were so successful and good at what they were doing that even King Solomon imported a tree for the temple from Tyre. And also, when Babylon destroys Tyre, they don't destroy it completely. They let the Tyrians and the Sidonians run their business, continue to run their harbors, keep their engineers, navigators, and so on, because the Babylonians, given that they're inland country, landlocked really pretty much country, they don't have the technology to make use of this amazing chance of making money through the Mediterranean Sea. So they kind of let the Tyrians and the Sidonians continue running their business, just pay high taxes to them. This is how well organized and profitable their seafaring business was. But here in this verse, we have ships of Tarshish. So Tarshish, the very western end, there's a big ship coming, and it's a big one because back in the days, the longer the distance that they had to go, the bigger they were. Just like in today's age, the bigger airplanes usually go the longer distance, and smaller airplanes will go to the small distance. So this huge ship is coming all the way from Spain, and it stops at Alexandria in Egypt. We'll see why later. It comes up later. But when they come to Cyprus, this island just a little distant from Tyre, they're told that Tyre is destroyed. So this whole ship that carries so much load to make money off and coming with big investment, expecting high return, are just in front of Tyre, but they're told that the place that they're trying to get to, Tyre, is destroyed and the ship has nowhere to go. Okay, that's verse 1. Verse 2. Be still, O inhabitants of the coast, the merchants of Sidon who crossed the sea have filled you. And on many waters your revenue was a grain of Shihor. Shihor is Nile, another word for Nile. Your revenue was a grain of Shihor. So this ship is making business by selling grain from Egypt, the harvest of the Nile. You are the merchant of the nations. Be ashamed, O Sidon. And for the sea has spoken, the stronghold of the sea, saying, I have neither labored nor given birth. I have neither reared young men nor brought up young women. When the report comes to Egypt, they'll be in anguish over the report about Tyre. Let's pause here. So what's happening here is that they're here, but they can't go into the port because the whole city is destroyed. They're at a loss. They don't know what to do. And interestingly, here we have the sea speaking. Some people see verse 4 sea as the sea god that the Sidonians and the Tyrians worshipped, because there's no the article in Hebrew, but we don't know for sure. Either way, whether it's the god sea or the sea in a figurative way saying to the ships, is pretty much saying, I have nothing to offer you. I have neither labored nor given birth. I have neither reared young men nor brought up young women. It's not me that brought you prosperity. I'm just a sea. I don't have anything to help you with. So what's happening here is something like the very thing Tyrians and the Sidonians were trusting in. They were trusting in the sea. It's because they could navigate through the sea. It's because of the sea that they were able to reach so far across the Mediterranean. It's because of the sea that they even found refuge, because they had places to run away when their mainland cities were captured. It was because of the sea that they could be unlike anybody else, because they knew how to handle the sea. The sea was the ground on which they stood to build their wealth, to build their confidence, to build their security. And now the sea is turning its back on them, saying, I have nothing to give you. Don't look at me. I have nothing to offer you. And this is a very good spiritual lesson for us to learn, that there are things that we tend to lean on, to rely on for security and success. Whether it be some fancy education you received, whether it be some strong financial portfolio you have, whether it be this amazing plan of life that you think you have, those things can never offer us the real blessing. They may seem like those plans and those tools that we have would offer us the greatest security and joy, but in fact, it is only God that can give us the blessing. We must not rely on those worldly things like Tyre and Sidon relied on the sea, but really understand that it is God over it that grants us any sort of blessing that truly lasts. So the ship is completely at a loss. They're told you can't go in, and the sea tells them, I have nothing. I have neither labored nor given birth. It's not me. I have nothing to offer you. Okay? Verse 6, cross over to Tarshish, wail, O inhabitants of the coast. Is this your exultant city whose origin is from days of old, whose feet carried her to settle far away? Who has purposed this against Tyre, the bestower of crowns? Bestower of crowns is used to describe Tyre, because Tyre, as I said, they established colonies everywhere in the Mediterranean Sea, and they bestowed crowns. They kind of appointed local rulers so that they can rule and make sure the city runs properly as a trading post that Tyre wants it to. Who has purposed this against Tyre, the bestower of crowns, whose merchants were princes, whose traders were the honored of the earth? The Lord of hosts has purposed it, to defile the pompous pride of all glory, to dishonor all honored of the earth. Cross over your land like the Nile, O daughter of Tarshish. There is no restraint anymore. He has stretched out his hand over the sea. He has shaken the kingdoms. The Lord has given command concerning Canaan to destroy its strongholds. And he said, you will no more exalt, O oppressed virgin daughter of Sidon. Arise, cross over to Cyprus. Even there you will have no rest. So, what's saying here? Who destroyed you, Tyre? bestower of crowns, and it says God did. Verse 9, the Lord of hosts has purposed it. The Lord of hosts has purposed it. Why? Because of their pride. Okay? And verse 10, cross over your land like the Nile, O daughter of Tarshish. It means because the inhabitants of Tarshish can walk across their land without any restraint because the power of Tyre has been broken. Tyre, their lord, has been destroyed, so Tarshish, just cross over your land like the Nile, like walk around as if you have no restraint or barriers. Okay? Now, verse 11 is kind of interesting. The Lord has given command concerning Canaan to destroy its strongholds. Now, we're entering into the next section, if you look at the outline, talking about the agencies and ultimate and proximate. So ultimately, it's God who has done this, but there's this proximate agency. There's proximate, real-life actor, agent in that time that actually made this destruction of Tyre come true. And who is it? It's verse 13. Behold, the land of the Chaldeans, this is the people that was not. Assyria destined it for wild beasts. They erected their siege towers. They stripped her palaces bare. They made her a ruin. So what's happening here? This verse 13 is a little confusing because we're suddenly having like Chaldeans and Assyrians, and it's kind of simple. It's actually they are the recipients of the command that has been said in verse 11. The Lord has given command concerning Canaan to destroy its strongholds. Who is it that God has given the commands to? It's the Chaldeans and the Assyrians. So we know from this verse that it's the Chaldeans and the Assyrians from Mesopotamia that will come and destroy and carry out this judgment. Okay? Of course, scholars vary a little bit in verse 13 what the function of this verse is, but that's how I understand it. And yeah, so the question is, when was this fulfilled? The issue of fulfillment is kind of interesting, and I will save that to the next video after I read one more verse. Wail, O ships of Tarshish, for your stronghold is laid waste. Look at verse 1. Wail, O ships of Tarshish, for Tyre is laid waste. It's the repetition of the same verse, really. And it forms a nice inclusio, letting us know that this verses 1 through 14 is one unit. And from verses 15 through the end of the chapter, it's the next unit, which will be covered in the next video.